For more on China's ties with both the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea, I spoke to Brian Becker, the executive director with the Answer Coalition. I asked him for his assessment of China sending a special envoy to Pyongyang.
Well, I think the leadership in China recognizes that unless there is the resumption of negotiations, either the six-party talks or bilateral discussions between the U.S. and North Korea, the likelihood of a war, an actual war, even if neither the United States or the DPRK want war, the likelihood of a war is growing ever more dangerous. And I think what the Chinese leadership is sending a message not only to the DPRK by this visit, it's sending a message to the United States. Yes, the Chinese government wants to have a non-nuclear Korean Peninsula, but it's not willing to join the United States as part of a global chorus to just beat down the DPRK, because that won't work. DPRK sees nuclear weapons as part of an existential part of its national security and a guarantee for its own stability and its own peace. I think the Chinese leadership is signaling by this trip that they too want to give the DPRK a guarantee of peace and stability rather than joining in the U.S. campaign for regime change, which can only lead to more crisis and even the danger of both global, regional war and global war.
There also seems to be a warming ties between Beijing and Seoul, right? The Chinese government is receiving the foreign minister of South Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea is paying a state visit to China soon. What do you make of those moves?
Well, of course, the Chinese leadership was very upset that the South Korean government and the South Korean military allowed the deployment of THAAD. Of course, we know that there was a kind of not official sanctions, but de facto sanctions of South Korean goods and companies. I think right now the Chinese government is trying to build bridges back to the government of the ROK, which of course needs an economic relationship with China. It's a vast market, it's a neighboring country. And also sees in the Moon Jae-in government, in spite of the harsh rhetoric of the past few months by the South Korean government, the possibility that it too could become a partner in mitigating or creating a lessening of tensions on the Korean Peninsula. So I think this is a trend that will continue, the warming of relations between between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Korea. And again, I think China wants to be able to say to the Korean people and to the government in South Korea and to the government in North Korea, let's avert a major crisis, let's avert a major war.
Recently, President Trump's administration designated the DPRK as a state sponsor of terrorism. How would that impact U.S.-DPRK relations?
It's not a state sponsor of terrorism. This is purely a political designation. Countries come on that list and come off that list based on the whims and needs of U.S. diplomacy. But the day after the DPRK was put on the state sponsor list, state-sponsored terrorism list, the United States also imposed new unilateral sanctions even against Chinese companies and Chinese individuals, thus showing that the state sponsor of terrorism designation or label is designed to ratchet up tension and pressure not only on North Korea but also on the People's Republic of China. Very big mistake. The Trump administration is going in the wrong direction. It should be reaching out to and accepting both China and Russia and the DPRK, and I believe the South Korean government's intention or desire to have a peaceful outcome vis-a-vis negotiations.